All
Without
right.
further ado, let's dive in for round two.
All right. So we're going to spend some time talking about you're an educator, whether you are educating formally, whether you're doing a boys or girls club or youth groups or whatever. But one of the questions that I've gotten over the years is I want to stretch this out. I want to just not have it be on Census Day. We're already doing this. How can we make the most of it? So that's what we're going to talk about today. This afternoon, I'm going to stop my video and I'm going to share my screen. And Richie, are we good?
Let's see, it is looking perfect.
All right, we'll just dive right in. So, in order to wrap your heads around thinking about the census as more than just botany or horticulture, I would like you to look at this worker bee. This is a beautiful little worker bee from one of my hives. And what do you see? I want you as a participant to use the Q&A to give me an adjective as you think about her and look at her. And as you're doing that, as you're putting your adjectives in the Q&A, this is just one thing that you will find under the educators box or tab at the website. So we have tried really hard to create things that you can use that are a little more than just botany or entomology. So when I look at this sweet little bee, I think of a lot of really positive adjectives. Those who aren't as maybe not as friendly with bees, maybe not. But this is just a way that you can use what you're already doing in your classroom. Richie, can you give me a couple adjectives that are coming in? I'm curious to see.
I sure can, and we're seeing some of my favorites.
Okay.
We're seeing lots of furry and fuzzy, and a handful of variations on colorful. Some great alliterations here: dusted with gold, hard
Wow.
workers,
Nice.
source of life, female focused, mighty.
Mighty.
I like one of our crowd favorites, cute.
Cute. Yeah, I use
Because,
that one. I use that word way too often when describing bees.
but
All right.
frankly, so true.
Yeah, great. So I just wanted you to give you an example of things. If you're already doing the census with your classroom and you maybe want to incorporate bigger groups, how can we incorporate language arts? It's really not very difficult. And we've made it even easier with some resources on the website. We talked about the project goals. And of course, you all are very interested in increasing the entomology of your classrooms, especially when they can actually meet criteria or curriculum directives that are already set for you. I will tell you, this is a no cost STEAM initiative. I'm pretty sure that this crowd knows that STEAM is science, technology, engineering, and math. This is a initiative that, again, all of the things under the website are available for you. It is an initiative that all you have to have is a pollinator garden. So I have many Title I schools across the state that use this program. And I also have several schools who have used it as a springboard to Georgia STEM certification. So I want you to think about that. This isn't just something extra to add to your workload. This is something that can actually meet some of the standards for Georgia and South Carolina, and at relatively no cost to you all. We went ahead and we talked about the what the kids have to learn in the last session. But if you're into science, I went ahead and put the scientific words. If you're working with high school kids or advanced AP kids, some of that official taxonomy donation designation can be important there. We talked about already how you can get one of these wonderful certificates and how you can upload your counts. You don't have to upload them one at a time. You can take your class counts, maybe have a really great student, use some math skills, add everything together, and then upload one count from your classroom that has the total number of counters. One note about really young kids. A lot of times entire schools want to participate, and you have first graders and they just can't do it. They can't grasp it. They're just excited to be out there and playing the game. So my advice is let them get out there and be part of this wonderful school initiative. Just don't upload the counts. Or if you have somebody that you feel did not do an accurate representation of what they saw, you as the educator are our first line to weed out counts that you don't find are meet the spirit or are accurate and should be reflected in true scientific data. That being said, everyone, whether you're a student or a grown-up or a senior citizen, you're out there, these bees are flying quickly. Your job is to do the best you can. If you get out there or your kids get out there and you've trained them and they've done practice counts and there's so many insects, they get frustrated or flustered, then it is not a win. And we want to win. So you just do the best you can. And if you are doing the best you can, your students are doing the best they can, and you upload counts honestly, that is all we are asking for. We are not asking for PhD entomology identification. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. If you are a school that has a pollinator garden and you're really wanting to show it off and you want people to know that you are using that garden, and one of the things I recommend for teachers is print out the sheet, the certificate, and then have a ceremony. I have been at Board of Education meetings where one school wanted the entire board to understand how important their school garden was. So they had the board actually present the certificate. I've had a principal, you get the picture. Use this to your best advantage to show off what you have. If you go to the website and you find, oops, I'm sorry, I got a little crazy. You see the educators tab up here and you click on it. You will see all of these things that we talked about in the previous class, along with some lessons. Not only do we have lesson plans for you, but we also have connections to other groups that are tremendous in the lesson planning business. One of my favorites is the Bee Cause. They do a lot of work in Georgia and South Carolina at school campuses, putting hives in, and they have an amazing collection of resources for you as a teacher. And we have several groups that are linked there as well. We talked about Fun Fact Fridays and our social media. If you want to post anything on social media and you have pictures of your kids, make sure you have permission for that, and make sure it's okay if I put them on a board or a poster saying that they participated in the census. Feel free, again, to pull anything. The Fun Fact Fridays from going on in July, in August, anything that's on that website or Instagram that you can use in your classroom, feel free to pull it. And the same goes for those cute little insect mascots. I have a teacher, her name is Mrs. Baird, and her kids on Census Day are Mrs. Baird's bees. And she has printed out stickers, and I think, yeah, she has stickers, or this is a different classroom, but the teachers will print out stickers. We will be posting closer to time an official I counted sticker, and that will go out in the newsletter as well as the website and on social media, that you are welcome to download and print at your local print shop or one of the big box places as well. It's maybe not quite as expensive. All right, we did talk about these, and I want to get into really the crux of things. Yes, use anything. We have the number of schools participating. Again, a lot of these numbers are misleading because some of these schools are 10, 12, 13 classrooms. Many of our schools have a STEM or STEAM coordinator, and they actually will take all of the classes through these as well. So let's get into how you can really use some of this and make it fun for your kids. So these are some pictures from the last couple years. You can see a lady over here. She's a teacher. She really got into it. She dressed up as a bee and went around encouraging all of the students to do their best on their counts. We have here a school that decorates their STEAM room outside. And because this is in August, and I know in Georgia, schools start the 1st of August, a lot of the teachers, this is one of the first things that they do once school gets back. And again, it is Title I schools use all of these resources, just have to have a pollinator garden. We also have some other pictures of students really excited taking those clipboards outside. A lot of the teachers tell me that in the spring, when they have some downtime, I know when I was in school, in high school, I think we watched Gone with the Wind 20 times during the last weeks of school. The STEM teachers will take them out and give them some time to practice count. So it's an activity that they can do that's not sitting in front of and wasting time. But I don't know if the schools still do that type of thing. The middle picture is a student who made a bee box. So one of the lessons that we have is how to create a sustainable bee box to put in your garden or at home. And this is an engineering class that you can easily do. And again, all of that information is there for you. Now, to really get an overall flavor, I want to play this video, and this is going to give you an idea of how a school really embraced the project.
He said his name was Oscar, and he went buzz, 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 buzz. When I saw 3 bumblebees, they said their names were Kay and Ray and Faye, and they went buzz, buzz.
All right, so that is, oops. That gives you an idea of exactly how encompassing this can be. And I know it looked a little chaotic in counting. And one of the questions you're going to have is, how do I determine what area to count on? What if my plant is so big we cannot see all of the plant? Then what you need to think about is just what section of that plant can you get accurate counts on. Some teachers actually put a hula hoop around and say, we're going to count everything in the hula hoop. Sometimes the plants are small enough that somebody can get them all. So you can see the enthusiasm. The kids are outside. One of the things that really makes it nice for me is they're excited to be part of a university project. That to them is a really big deal. And the teachers really appreciate that as well. So you've already seen these comments and you've seen this slide 100 times. You already know where to go. This is some of the things that you'll find. Again, the insect counting identification guide you can print out or use as is. You can also have, this is a PowerPoint that is designed for youth that you can download and use as part of the training to get the kids ready to go. And of course, you can print out as many of these as you want. Richie has done an amazing job helping me with the website, so you can actually count on your phone if you are not doing a group activity. I forgot to mention that, but you can print out as many of these sheets as needed. And here's some other things. So I spent some of the off season meeting with teachers during the winter and having coffee with a lot of teachers across the state. What do you need? What can I help you with? And they said, well, census is definitely math. So why can't we concentrate on some math lessons? So I met with teachers of all different age groups, and we came up with several ways that you can use math. And I have a worksheet I will show you. We also talked about how can we incorporate this as for engineering, make bee boxes, have the kids engineer bee boxes a little differently, work with your water authority, and maybe devise a water catchment system to help water that beautiful pollinator garden. So really, there's a lot of things that we can use, but we'll talk a little bit about math to start with. Oops. So if we start with, this is the basics of the last 3 years, all of these large numbers, or what can we do with these large numbers? And again, this is under the census data. The first thing is addition. We have found that the students really enjoy using data that they collected versus something out of a textbook. When they are empowered to count these insects and be part of a broader movement that really does make a difference, and then they can use their data, it really makes them excited. I would recommend, as you collect your students' data, that you upload it, you save your school's data, because you can actually use that to compare with maybe others in your county, with a county that is your county and a county in another state, or a county in North Georgia versus South Georgia. So save those numbers, and then you'll be able to really use them in your classroom. So again, simple addition. This is true data. I pulled this from the website. You can add 6 Bs, 5 Bs, and 9 Bs, and those counties reported X number. Of course, that we can use subtraction, multiplication, division. Graphing I know is big. My sister teaches 3rd grade. So how are we going to visually show this? So we have 29 insects in 2019 in Baldwin County. 2020, 72, 21, 14. So let's make a graph. I could envision you doing class for the next 3 years. How did your class count differently? How did your class count compared to your county or neighboring counties? All of that is there for your use. Percentages, and this is Crabapple Elementary School in Cobb County. We have wasps and butterflies. So what percentage of wasps did Crabapple Elementary count in Cobb County? What percentage of butterflies? And again, you can take this from county to county. Maybe even now we'll compare South Carolina and Georgia. You can look at weather data. You can say, all right, if their temperature they saw was really warm, if they were over 80 degrees, how many bees did they see? If another county was just not quite 80, but in the 70s, did it make a difference? All of that data is there for you to use. Two-way frequency tables. One of my best friends is a very gifted math teacher at North Cobb High School, and she actually uses their data for two-way frequency tables, which I think is pretty, I would have never thought of that. So she gets their data and creates the worksheets for them. So you can use it in little small grades, first grade, all the way up through high school. One of the high schools was using this as a critical thinking class. So in 2019, we had so many counters reporting over 131,000 insects. In 2020, there were more counters, but less insects. Why? So they had their students dig through some of the data and they came up with some explanations. In 2022, we actually had rain in many of the areas. Could that have something to do with it? So critical thinking is another way that you can use the data. Cullen Fairley Elementary School has an amazing STEM teacher named Diane Parr. She has been a fan of the census since it was in its pilot project. She works with the students all year long on the census. She saves their data, and I'm going to show you some of the things that she does with them. So she will create data for each of the counts, each of the years, and she will spend the first part of August doing some of those lessons with them before they get ready for counting. And here was the temperature data. So they actually saw the same thing. In 2020, it was cloudy and the temperature was a little lower. How does that affect our results? And what is an average temperature? What is a mode? What is a median? So she uses all those types of lessons. And here's an example of one of the kids' STEM notebooks. So it really is a project that you can use over and over again. And it is empowering when they can use their own data and data that they use for math lessons. All right, so we're talking, actually did a teacher workshop in Savannah, and she was saying, I love it, but I need more English. I need to relate it to more things. So we have a nature backyard hunt that I worked with Tixie Fowler, who's part of the Georgia Conservation Districts. We did a backyard hunt, which was really important and very useful during COVID times. And we have what you saw earlier, the what do you see, where you just take a picture and it's a prompt. And then I love to visit classrooms and have them do insect haiku. So we have Ode to the Butterfly. So these are things that are printable. They're already done, and all you have to do is click and print, and they're ready for you. Another activity that I have a lot of fun with kids is the life of the honeybee. If you've done any research on honeybees, they're perfect for teaching kids about their lifespan. When a honeybee first emerges, she has a very specific job, and it is to clean her cell. When kids are little, they have very specific job to clean their room. And as bees get older, just as kids get older, their jobs change. So bees go through stages where first they're cleaning their room, and then they're helping take care of larvae, which could be baby brothers and sisters. And then we go through the list. And this lesson plan has everything there for you and everything that you need to do the activity. So the kids learn about the honeybee hive as well as life progression. And I did it with these are some of our wonderful extension agents, and they wanted to attend a workshop to do more with the census, and here they are. So we have you can see a nurse bee. This is the bee here that actually takes care of the larva bee. And we have the queen bee, whose only job is to lay eggs, and there's some eggs there. We have a bee as they get older, their job is to keep the hive cool, so they use their wings to fan. But you get the picture. So that lesson plan is on the website, ready for you to use. Another one is a honey tasting activity. This is a lot of fun for adults. I have a lot of fun doing this with adult groups. You have a lesson plan here. You have a PowerPoint presentation that talks about honey, how it's produced and how it's named, how come it's called sourwood honey as opposed to orange blossom honey. You can collect honey from local beekeepers, maybe at your farmer's market, and actually ask a local beekeeper to come in and do this activity with your kids or your adults. These sheets are available for you to print out, and it talks about the different colors of honey and the different tastes you might taste. Is it taste woodsy? Is it floral? Does it taste smoky? Those type of things. So there's a lot you could do with this lesson. You're learning about different descriptive words. You're learning about colors. You're learning about honey, and you are incorporating a community partner, which is an important buzzwords for STEM certification. A local beekeeper can be a community partner for your STEM group. And we talked about articles. These articles are interesting because you can actually pull them and look at the abstracts. And for a science class, or if you have a high school class that is actually doing experimental work, they can pull and see what has been done on projects they're working on. I have a college class in Athens that is actually a service learning experimental design class, and they use these. These are published. You can have links to them, easy to use. Some other ideas, we talked about using rain barrels for engineering. One of the great things that I think is fun is getting out a stereoscope and looking at insects up close. Now, the problem is, how do we get the insects? It is very simple to get insects. And I'm about to publish a video on the website about this. Just take a mason jar or a plastic test tube, capture the insect yourself, and put it in the freezer. You don't need to spray any chemicals. You don't need what we used to call kill jars. Put them into the freezer and they go to sleep, and then when they just don't wake up. And when you pull them out, you can pin them. It is very simple. They don't have to be pinned like you're putting together a presentation for a museum. Just get them pinned and stick them under the stereoscopes, and the kids can see the bee leg, the bee pile. They can see pollen in the hair, get a close-up of the antenna. Very easy to do. We want to talk even history. The honeybee came over in the 1600s. We actually have records of that. But some fossils were found that show that Apis bees were here earlier than that. What happened? Where did they go? Some history there. Actually, another history lesson, we have cave paintings that show honeybees were being robbed of honey thousands and thousands of years ago. How did that happen? When did we domesticate honeybees? Or domesticate's not the right word, but when did we start using them on our farms? When our ancestors came, they brought flower seeds to remind them of home. How did they transport them and save them? Try saving pollinator flower seeds in your own garden and then plant them the next year. Have your students take advantage of Rosalind Carter's big birthday celebration and plan a pollinator garden expansion. How will we design the beds? What soil will we use? And have the group together register your garden as part of the butterfly trail. If you haven't seen Journey North, you are missing out. Head to Journey North and look at things. They talk about migration in phenology. So the migration of the monarch is something that they take a look at, and your class can actually contribute to that by saying, we saw monarchs today on our census counts. Also, you can participate in the symbolic migration, which is a really neat program that my friend Susan Myers heads up for monarchs across Georgia. So you can check that out. So there's just so many ways that you can take a 2-day or 1 day, because it's Friday, census program and create your curriculum to meet your standards, to meet your needs at a low cost way that really does engage our students. We talked about our census partners. The Garden Club of Georgia is listed. Reach out to these groups. If you want to have a guest speaker as a community partner, maybe there's a garden club member near your school or a native plant society member. If you're near one of these gardens, maybe a field trip is in order. We talked about the Rosalind Carter Butterfly or Pollinator Appreciation Day, an easy thing to do that first week of school. And I'm going to show you the one I made with our 4-H pollinator ambassadors. Just very simple.
From the 2022-23 4-H pollinator ambassadors, happy birthday, Mrs. Carter. Thank you for your love of pollinators.
So just something really simple that you can use to thank Mrs. Carter and to raise awareness about pollinator conservation and the groups that work in it. You can post it on social media, post it on the Census Facebook page or your school page. And here's a list of all of our social media, the Spotify list. Again, it's BECKYGRI. And we have the Instagram page. All right, so now I'm going to stop share. And I'm going to ask you all to, in the chat box, put out anything you're interested in learning more about, anything that we can do to provide more for you for your classroom, any subject you're interested with, me coming up with some ideas for, anything you want to talk over or a question you want the group to think about. So Richie or Beth, if you will handle the Q&A, we'll see if anybody has a topic, a subject, or a grade level that they want some help with.
You bet. All right, folks. So now's your moment. Becky, while we're waiting for those to come in, do you want us to look at any of the, maybe not questions, but comments?
Sure.
Perfect. I see one on here that's got a couple of great questions that I know have come up before during our counts.
Okay.
I know are always great ones to address. One by Phoenix, who says, they know we can count the same flower throughout the day. Do we count per flower, per plant, or more than one plant by the same person?
That is a great question. So for the individual count, you want to get as close to the plant as possible, a plant size, not just one flower. Now, I do realize that some of those plants can be too big and overwhelming, and you're not able to see everything that's going on the plant. So section off a part of that plant, and that's what your focus is. Now, the same person can count on that plant, or that same plant can be used by multiple grades at multiple times, because what we're looking at is a snapshot. What is happening on that plant at that time? And you're going to record that time. You're going to record when you start your counts, your 15 minutes, and when that count is up. You're going to make a note of that. And that's what you're going to put in. So even though somebody may have seen 20 bees at 11 a.m., at 3 p.m., that same plant may not show many bees at all. And that's important data.
All right, we've had a few of them come in. And I've got one here from Melinda. She's asking, do you have a compiled list of children's books that teach about pollinators?
I do not. Now I'm making note number 2. Children's books.
That's a great
That
one.
is a great idea. If you all have any that you've used in your classroom that you want to make sure that we include in that list, please email me or let me know, and we'll definitely include those. That's why teachers are so good for me. They give me such great ideas. So yes, we will come up with children's book lists. Excellent idea.
Okay, and I know you've talked about this before, Becky, but maybe a perfect chance to readdress it for some of our folks who jumped in for this session. Julie says, I haven't had the chance to review the website thoroughly, but are there specific instructions about how the counting should be done?
Yes, if you go to the website and you look at the insect counting guide, the front page will tell you exactly all the instructions that you need to help you do the counts. If you were to come across anything you didn't understand or you wanted some clarification, especially since it's your first time, then you could definitely email me and we could talk it out. One thing I wanted to mention too is on the website, on the educators part at the bottom, we have links to some of our other partners who also do this great type of work. I mentioned the bee calls earlier. They also have a lot of ties into literature on their website. You can look for that as well.
And I have seen Emily popping in here in a few places offering their help.
She's wonderful. Yes, she is. Emily is in South Carolina, so she's a definite resource for you guys as well.
All right. I see Carol, who's talking about our friends Martin and Jessica. Carol says she uses the Georgia Green Landscape Stewards Program, Pollinator Habitat,
Yes.
at their monthly meetings to enhance their continuing education offerings. She wants to copy off the sheet for the pollinator census.
There you go. Yes, the Green Landscape Steward Program is a great program that Jessica Warren down in South Georgia put together with Martin. Yeah, two of our good friends. And it is an all-encompassing certification that you can do that talks about not just pollinators, but how you're using your water, that type of thing. So it can definitely be in addition to your classroom.
And definitely one that we had the opportunity to see put together and support.
Exactly.
So I see Deirdre along with some other folks who are chiming in that they can't wait to go on the children's book, getting a good list together. And
Okay.
so Becky, because I see so many folks are interested in that, would you prefer that they email you individually, or should we set up like a Goodreads list or something like that where folks can add in their favorite children's books that
Yes.
address pollinators?
I think what we'll do is I'm just writing this down. I'm going to do a Goodreads list, and we'll put a book list up together on the educators website. And if you have some books that you've used that you think would be great additions, please email me those titles.
That's awesome. All right, let's see. Audrey was going to ask about the children's books or short form lessons, standalone lessons. I know, Becca, you have talked about lessons before. Do you want to say anything?
Right. We have a few
specific to that?
standalone lessons on the website. We also have links to standalone lessons from partners like the Georgia Conservation Districts have some, Xerxes has some, as well as the Bee Cause has some that are useful. Our goal as we develop more and more of these is to put together a lesson plan book, but that will probably be a couple years in the work. And if you guys come up with a great lesson plan that you want to share, feel free to use our social media or let me know and I can definitely share. I had, when we first started, we had teachers on the pilot program develop lesson plans, and some of those are listed on the website as well.
Perfect. And speaking of great contributions by our friends, I see a message from Amy Dabbs here in chat, and she says, we do have a lot of books in the online course, Be a Friend to Pollinators. And
right.
She says, go right ahead.
No, you go ahead.
She says, we'll host a cohort in October. So I don't know if you or Amy want to say anything more about that.
So Amy is in her team. I was just very excited to be a small part of the great team that came together to create Be a Friend to Pollinators. This is a virtual online class for educators. It is done very well, an easy to use platform where we tie it into literature, all sorts of how to do the pollinator garden, how to assess your habitat. We actually have a habitat assessment that was developed 2 years ago. It's a great program. We're piloting it now. If it's something that anybody's ever interested in doing, let me know and I can get in touch with Amy. Or Amy, if you want to put in the Q&A your contact information. Hi, Amy. I'm glad to see you or hear you or know you're there.
All the above.
All right,
let's see. Okay, we got Mary Ruth from our Fayette County Extension. They've got a collection of kids' books, so that's awesome.
Great.
She says they'll send that to you.
Excellent. Thank you, Mary.
Julie says that Cabot Creamery offers a free patch program for pollinators. After students complete their projects, a group leader can submit details about what they've done and order free patches for their students. That sounds like a cool.
Yeah, I didn't know about that. I'm going to look that one up. Excellent.
Thanks for letting us know about that, Julie. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, Annie has popped in a great question, and I know you have talked about this before with a lot of folks, so it's definitely a great sign that this is a recurring question. It's always great to ask and answer. Annie says, if pollinator flies away and maybe comes back, how do we know? Is it
there
a different
you go.
Individual? Or do we
All
not
right.
worry about that and count it again? Great question. And Becky, I
That
know
is
you
a
got a
great
great
question.
answer.
Yes, because when we developed the counting criteria, that was one of my questions. So I actually sat down with the group of statisticians who were going to be making sure the data is useful. And that's why we are technically counting insect visits. So every time an insect lands on your plant, that is when you count it. Because, like you mentioned, you don't know. Was that the fly I just saw, or is that a new fly? Oh no, I've seen that fly. I saw that fly 2, 3 minutes ago. I'm not going to count that one again. We get muddled in those details and we may be missing. So, as long as everybody's counting every time an insect lands on that plant, then the stats are good. The researchers give it a thumbs up and they're able to really use that data. Excellent question. And yes, we get it. And I probably should be a little more clear about that in instructions, my verbal instructions. I know that on the website we have it pretty clear. Thank you for asking.
Oh, I think you do a great job of that one, Becky, although it definitely leads to some potentially fun conversations about whether or not I've seen that particular beetle before. He looks like a particularly rough customer. I've seen him around
That's
this
right.
neighborhood, but
That's
we
right.
we always count them, and lest we miss the chance to count them, we'll count them again if they pop back up. Okay, Amy has been adding in some more good stuff. She too wants to shout out the pilot students.
Excellent.
Today's webinar. Amy has
Right.
stuck the. Okay, this is great. Okay, so she's got her email in there too. So folks who want to reach out. Anthony has stuck in what looks to be picture books, a link to picture books about bees, bugs, butterflies, and worms.
Nice.
Maybe a collection of books, it looks like. Amy has put in, oh, this is great too, her link tree. So it looks like that links to resources and info about the upcoming classes, including Be a
Excellent.
Friend of Pollinators. So thanks for
Right.
that, Amy.
I should have, and I did mention, but maybe I need to be clearer. I guess we do have some of the first cohort from the Be a Friend to Pollinators on this webinar. So as part of their assignment, they actually use the counting criteria to go assess their own pollinator garden to get ready for school and get them ready to count. Although I welcomed, hopefully with open arms, all of my South Carolina friends, I definitely want to shout out to the Be a Friend to Pollinators pilot group. I have been helping a little bit with their discussions, and they're bright teachers. Their students are really lucky to have them. And we appreciate all their feedback because we envision that this really important program to grow, and we're excited to give these resources out to these educators.
Absolutely. Becky and Amy, I have been so excited to hear more about that ever since Becky first gave me a clue that was happening. So and I'm sure quite a few folks can't wait to follow along with that. Okay, so always a great question. And I feel like this bridges off of something I know you've already said. Laura Ann says, it may have already been discussed, but how do we get the pollinator linked in badge?
That is a question for Amy for the Be a Friend to Pollinators. So that is not for the pollinator census. You will get your certificate that we talked about earlier. Definitely talk to Amy about that. We're doing some digital badge work.
So folks, you heard it here. Go ahead and follow up with some of those resources that Amy has been sticking in the Q&A for us. She's not only got her contact info, but she's got that Linktree link, which should link to, looks like it links to all of the resources for that class and others. And just want to do a quick glance through here and make sure I didn't miss anything. Oh, here's a good one that I wanted to take a moment to ask you about, Becky. So I know you have talked to me about this before. Vicky asks, do you have info on the appearance of larvae or future butterfly/moth pollinators? And in parentheses, she says, Some people tend to kill all the caterpillars they see in their gardens.
And that is something that we talk about when we go through the education on butterflies, Butterfly Week. We talk about the importance of larval plants and leaving those caterpillars or those larvae in place. But that being said, we also have to teach it's an ecosystem. So even though I love my monarch caterpillars, for example, I can't tell that beautiful great black wasp, okay, you can come in here, but I'm only allowing you to get the pickle worms and maybe the cabbage worms over there and leave all my butterfly larvae alone. It doesn't work that way, unfortunately. So we just have to teach it as the whole ecosystem and how that having all those beneficial insects balances out some of our pest problems, and that butterflies lay more eggs than they think will ever mature to adulthood for those reasons. And we also want the kids to be excited about seeing the caterpillars. Again, the only sting we ever had was a kid that grabbed the tussock caterpillar and got stung.
Oof. And having had a few of those jump out of the trees to surprise you on the back of your neck, I can say we're still feeling it for that kid today.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's just a couple here. One about songs that I wanted to make sure we got in here.
Okay.
And two that I want to go ahead and combine because they both complement each other really well. And so the first one is from Anthony, who says that it looks like they've got some songs they want to add to our song list. So I wanted to use that to say, folks, please do that. Go ahead and we'll try and get them here on the list that we're able to download from this, but also make sure that you hop on and send those to us so we can contribute them, add them to our Pollinator playlist.
Yeah, it's surprising how popular that it is and how catchy the tunes are. I had my husband singing about the ladybug picnic. Definitely appreciate any additions.
Hard not to. I have to tell you, I've stopped being surprised at the number of times a particular earworm has found its way in and I'm humming it before I realize what I'm humming and where that came from in the first place.
Yeah.
And so Anthony says the Tobacco Pleasure Pirates and their song Honey.
Okay. Oh, yeah. I know that one. Yeah, that's a good one.
And Tom Chapin has a great honeybee song for kids.
Okay. I'm writing that down.
And also for another great honeybee song for kids, he says Francis England also has one.
Okay.
I don't know, Anthony, if you can pop in the names of those songs. If you have them on the top of your head, that'll help us find them that much easier. So like you said, Becky, something you'll probably never get away from because people love it. Elizabeth says she's expressing a sentiment here that I've seen a bunch of times. I just want to say thank you. I need to watch the second half, as she promised their littlest they'd head off to the library, so we may have lost them, but for folks who have chimed in and said they want to either have a chance to watch something they miss or want to make sure they have a chance to show someone else something that they know they'll be excited to see, or something you want to see again. Becky, would you like to address accessing archives of these, or how are you going to make those available?
Richie's gonna pretty them up for us, and then we'll have them a link to them on the website, and I'll also send the link out on social media.
Perfect. And also, Elizabeth says, Shiny Heiny is simply the best takeaway. Which I have to say, I think it's stiff competition because I know there's a lot of fun things that folks will take away from here today, but I can confess as well, that's one that's going to stick with me. So,
excellent.
James has a question. I know we've answered it before, but it's always good to tap back on again. Where do we locate those individual graphics for the different pollinator types created by your local artist? And I think he's talking about Megan.
Megan is my amazing. It's just really nice to have your own artist. I tell you, someone's so gifted. They're on the website. If they're not on the homepage, just look under resources or the educator's website. They're on there probably more than one time. And if there's something that you're looking for that you don't find, please email me.
Becky said it's tough to beat. And most of the pictures that are up there, most of the images that are up there, Becky has made it so that when you click on them, They do pop up individually. So anything that you want to go ahead and use in your own promotional materials, or like Becky said, if you want to make stickers or maybe a cutout activity for your students, you could do something. Not Becky, I know you have stuff both on the website and on the Facebook, but in terms of activities, you could always put those insects on a Word document or something like that, move them around and have a great cutout and coloring opportunity. And that ties right into two great questions. And Becky, I know you have talked to me about this before. So let me go ahead and read off both of them. And then Becky, if you wouldn't mind. Julie asks, what's our minimum age that you would recommend for recording the accounts? And then Susan says, I love the video from the school. And she asks, do the children each choose one plant, count in teams on individual plants, or move from station to station? So Becky, can you combo that up for us and roll it all
Sure.
into one?
Okay. The Oak Grove does an amazing job with this. And I get lots of my favorite days are when the census is over and I get all these wonderful videos. What they did is it just depended on the classroom and how big their pollinator garden is at the time. Sometimes they'll team count depending on what's blooming, and sometimes they individual count. And as far as the minimum age goes, I have had third grade is big. I have a lot of third graders, but what we ask is that regardless of what the age is, that everybody count. First grade, kindergarten, pre-K, get them out there in the garden, looking at insects, having a great time, learning their numbers. But as far as what you upload, just discern and be sure that the students did the best job they could and that you feel comfortable with their results. And I have to say, regardless of how old you are and how much experience you've had, if it's warm, those bees are going to be flying. Those insects are going to be quick. And I don't want anybody getting frustrated. Just always emphasize we're going to do the best we can, and we're going to do the best to identify them, and we're going to do the best to count as many as we can. And then you as the teacher can decide what is uploaded, and you don't have to tell everybody what all has been uploaded, and then just use that data however you want to in your classroom. I hope that answers that question.
I think that's perfect, Becky. And I know I'm kind of pushing us past time here, so I'm going to go ahead and grab just a couple more here at the end. And then, Becky, I know we want to be respectful of everyone's time.
Yes.
But there's just a couple of ones that I know folks will have questions on too.
Okay.
Suzanne asks, are there any flowers, veggies, or others that you would recommend could still be planted now to add more plants to our pollinator garden in time for the census?
I think a lot of that's going to depend on what your local climate is. If you're dry and hot, the chances of something actually surviving without constant care and lots of water are pretty slim. If you are not hot, or of course you're going to be hot, but if you're getting at rain, I would think putting in some natives, maybe some asters, some goldenrod, maybe some potted zinnias that you could transplant. Those type of things would be great because they handle our conditions better. Those natives do. So if I had to pick a couple, I would say mountain mint, asters, and goldenrod. Those would be great ones to add, and they're usually blooming about that time, and a great addition to your pollinator garden anyway. Very beautiful. And just watch your climate and make sure they're getting water. And like I said, if you're having 90 degrees for a week in a row and no rain, then I would just hang on.
Okay, some great points. We've got Krista, and I know I've seen some other comments here. Krista and Betsy here right down at the bottom are both saying that the Be a Friend to Pollinators class, one says it's well worth the time, great learning experience, and her students will benefit from it. And Krista says very practical lessons and activities too. It's been great. And then I see lots of thumbs up on both of those.
Excellent. It's been a joy to be part of that team. And I think it's beautiful. It's a wonderful class, and it's being piloted this year. And we've had 10 Georgia teachers. We're lucky enough to be part of the pilot program, as well as 40 in South Carolina. And as Amy says, the pilot project means we're going to tweak it and improve it, and then it'll be more widely available.
So Amy, if you're still with us, hope you can see all these kudos too. Clearly, you and Becky have a lot of fans in here. Anthony has chimed in, and I've just got to read this off because he found the name of Tom's song for
Okay.
us.
Okay.
Tom Chapin, who he says is Harry Chapin's brother. The name of the song is The Honeybee Waggle.
Oh, cool. Okay, got it.
And Francis England's song is simply called Honey.
All right.
And great one to close out on, because I know you've told me so many stories of folks who just get more excited every year, but we want to say we're just as excited for folks who are just joining us for the first time. But just because I know so many folks are like me and just find this more exciting every year we get a chance to participate, Beverly says, thank you to the extension folks for offering this seminar and to the participants. So absolutely, let's emphasize this too, Beverly. We agree. We want to also thank all the participants for sharing the resources. So folks, stuff that you put in the chat, stuff that you put in the Q&A, we appreciate that too. Love it.
It's a group effort. This pollinator conservation is a group effort.
For sure. And Beverly says this is our third year participating, and today's seminar helps confirm some of our practice and provides ideas on how to improve our counts.
Excellent.
So
And
Beverly,
again, if we didn't get to your questions or you things pop up, I am an email away. And I try and be this time of the year, I'm census all the time, but I try and answer as quickly as possible if you have any questions as you get moving toward this.
all right, Becky, I'll go ahead and pop out here. So there's anything that we wanted to, like Becky said, if we haven't had a chance to speak to you or answer your question, go ahead and make sure that you send those to us and we'll follow up with you.
And thank you so much for everybody. I know it's summer, you're taking time out, just shows your dedication to your students and to pollinators. And I look so excited for you, especially new ones, to go through this the first time. I think you'll have a lot to enjoy about it and a lot of good stories to laugh about. And hopefully it'll be a lot of good learning.
Perfect. All right.
All right. Well, thanks everybody. Thank you, Richie. Thank you, Beth, for allowing me just to concentrate on presenting information and not worrying about it. I appreciate that. Thank you for my South Carolina crew. Thank you, Amy, Emily, for joining in and providing resources. It's been great.
Perfect. Absolutely. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Becky. Thanks for bringing this to us. And thanks for taking the time. You do such a great job of making everything concise and accessible and fun at the same time.
Thank you.
Can't wait to hop on and see what pops up in the Facebook and the Instagram too.
All right. Everybody have a wonderful day. Stay cool and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody.